Hello everyone and welcome back to the next installment of our 9.1 raid guides. This is Crzypck from Complexity Limit, and today we're going to show you how to kill the Mythic Guardian of the First One's encounter in the Sanctum of Domination. Let's start with a short disclaimer. All of our Mythic guides will assume you have a good understanding of the heroic version of the encounter. We will not be discussing the basic mechanics, but instead the changes for Mythic and our strategy for how to defeat the Mythic version of the encounter. If you need a refresher on any of the basic mechanics for a fight, check out our heroic videos on the channel. This encounter, as of the time of writing, is tuned more as an HPS check than a DPS check, and both of these are getting progressively easier to hit and should continue that each week. As such, there's two composition options. You can go with 2 tanks, either 5 or 6 healers, which we'll discuss shortly, and then either the 12 or 13 DPS to fill the raid. Depending how many healers is really key. Depending on the raid's DPS output, you'll likely be able to 5 heal, which means you will only want the boss to do 2 Purging Protocol casts each time he runs out of energy. If you simply don't have the DPS to hit this check, but you do have access to a 6th healer in your raid, swap in that healer. The DPS check is a fair bit easier to hit with 6 healers because you can generally survive 3 Purging Protocols each time the boss runs out of energy, which is a significant amount of additional DPS time. It'll also make it a little bit safer for you to survive for the entirety of the fight because the damage basically stops being a problem with a 6th healer. Okay, let's get into the changes to this fight for Mythic. The most notable change is the energy cores. On Mythic, you'll still get 3 of these things at the start of the encounter, but now they all start at 0 energy. You'll need to charge them up. To do so, you need to bring the threat neutralization circles on top of the cores and basically Venn diagram them over the thing. Each explosion from threat neutralization will regen 5 energy to the core, so successfully getting all 3 explosions from each set of debuffs to hit the core will regenerate 15 energy to it, or 25% of its max energy bar. You'll get 2 sets of threat neutralization before the boss runs out of energy, one as the boss is casting his first Purging Protocol, and one as the boss is draining the core. You'll want to ensure all 3 explosions from each set successfully hit the core. Doing so will mean that the boss gets fully up to 100% energy by the time the core explodes. Doing this is vital, as any energy missed means less DPS time on the boss before you die. Aside from the energy cores, the other changes are relatively minor. While the boss is regenerating energy, there's pulsing damage from the core, which is present on Heroic. This will not only deal nearly lethal damage if you stand outside the circle, but the damage reduction effect provided by that circle is weaker on Mythic. There's not really any counterplay or anything you can do against this here, it just means you're going to take even more additional damage from it. On top of that, the boss's Obliterate must now hit at least 4 people each time. If it ever hits less than 4 people, it'll instantly drain 1/3 of the boss's max energy pool. This is extremely bad and should be avoided at all costs. Strategy wise, there's a few tweaks you'll want to make from Heroic. We recommend using Bloodlust on pull. The raid will obviously still want to dodge the disintegration lines. For the tank combo, the boss will still always do Sunder, Obliterate, Obliterate, then a final Sunder. Have the first tank take the first Sunder and Obliterate, and your second tank will taunt for the second Obliterate and then hold for the second Sunder. As for the other Obliterate soakers, we recommend using immunities. You'll need a total of 9 players with immunities for this to work. If your comp supports this, assign 3 different sets of 3 immunity players. Have a set location for the soakers to stand, like say in front of the boss's right foot. When the first Obliterate is cast, the 3 immune soakers move to that spot and the tank moves on top of them. The soakers will pop their immunities and get hit, no biggie, the tank will also survive. Then, the second tank will taunt, move on top of where those 3 immunity soakers already are, and then have the second Obliterate hit there. Then, the soakers move so they don't get hit by that final Sunder. By doing all of this, you effectively eliminate 75% of the Obliterate damage from the fight. The threat neutralization circles should be brought to the energy cores in a pre-assigned order. We went bottom right, then bottom left, then top, but any order will work. Whatever order you choose, make absolutely sure all 3 circles explode on the next core you'll have the boss soaking. Any misses will just make the DPS check harder and potentially cause you to wipe. One last thing we want to mention is the sentries. You can't do anything about these, and there's no counterplay, but you should be aware they freaking hurt on Mythic. The damage from these things represented 42% of our total damage intake as a raid during the first kill of the boss. This ramps up the lower the boss's energy is as they continue being summoned, so healers just need to make sure they keep people healthy. The first Purging Protocol cast will destroy all active sentries, so the damage intake from the sentries will subside a few times throughout the encounter. Okay, now let's get into the boss's energy. We recommend you attempt to do this boss with 5 healers and 13 DPS, especially as your raid gets more geared. When the boss runs out of energy, allow him to cast Purging Protocol twice. Use a raid cooldown each time. During the third cast, move the boss into the energy core, which will interrupt that cast and start charging him. Ensure the threat neutralization circles that come out during the Purging Protocol, and also once you're inside the circle regenerating the boss's energy, are still properly exploded on the energy core. Once the core is depleted, move away before it explodes. The explosion is lethal on Mythic. Repeat this for all 3 of the energy cores. Once the boss runs out of energy a 4th time, rotate raid cooldowns starting with Purging Protocol number 2, and just survive as long as you can until either the boss dies or you die. If you decided to go with 6 healers, the one change you'll want to make is each time the boss runs out of energy, allow him to cast 3 Purging Protocols and interrupt the 4th. Don't use a cooldown at all for the first one. Use 1 raid cooldown for the second, and use 2 raid cooldowns for the third cast of Purging Protocol. For that third one, you'll always want one of the cooldowns to be a damage reduction one, like Barrier or Devo, and it doesn't hurt to throw in an AMZ or Rally as well. Over the course of the fight, this will give you more than 20 seconds of additional DPS time, plus will allow you to survive longer at the end of the encounter. Either way, new card and bring down this boss. If you enjoyed this guide, remember to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to make sure you're subscribed to the channel to catch all of our previews, guides, kill videos, and more. From the team here at Complexity Limit, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.